What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. Of course, today we'd like to go take a look at the past week and really see what you guys had to say in the comments, and of course give you guys a nice little review, a nice little summary of the week of news so you can kind of catch up pretty quickly on some of the bigger stuff that took place throughout the week. Of course, I wasn't able to do last Friday as well because I was away at the convention, so I also worked that into today's show as well, which we'll have some fun and take a look at everything. That was actually the day for crossplay, so I'm sure that'll be great. First though, let's talk about some quick news. Hollow Knight on the Nintendo Switch. I've told you guys it's a great game. I've told you to go out and buy it. I picked it up right away, and I absolutely like that game. I played it on Steam and had a great time with it, so of course I picked it up again because it runs perfect on the Switch, 60 frames and everything. There's some bugs, but they are addressing that in some patches. It looks like a lot of people are liking it because a lot of people have now purchased it. In fact, Team Cherry told IGN that over 250,000 copies have already sold on the Nintendo eShop. Now, of course, Reggie also told Waypoint in an interview that Hollow Knight was doing really well. And yes, that is a good number, honestly, for a game that hasn't been out that long. Remember, it was released on E3, on their E3 presentation. They said it's available now, go get it, and I did. But so that means it's only been a couple weeks and they've blasted through 250,000 copies. And honestly, it deserves it. It's a great Metroidvania style 2D platforming game, and I recommend it. If you haven't picked it up, I would go get it. It's not, I think it's like 15 bucks. It's a steal at that price. But with that out of the way, guys, let's get into the week of Newswave. Starting with last Friday, we talked about Nintendo and Microsoft taking a big shot at Sony with their ad campaign. During a Minecraft trailer, both companies made it apparent that they were going all in with crossplay while Sony was sitting this one out. Jonathan Unum says, what if Nintendo and Microsoft teamed up for a console and we already know the name of the next gen console, NX, Nintendo, Xbox? I saw this online. I thought it was just fun. I laughed a bit at it. Look, here's the thing. People see the relationship between Nintendo and Microsoft and might be reading a little too far into it. Nintendo is not going to give up their consoles at all or probably work with another company on it, mostly because they do make money from their systems, and companies like Microsoft and Sony are willing to lose money on their systems. Nintendo is all about trying to make any money they can from their consoles, mostly because it's really their only business, right? Game consoles, gaming in general, is their business. Now, they are at least starting to leverage their IPs further, as we see with like the theme parks and stuff that they're opening, and they're doing more cell phone games, which cell phone games are extremely lucrative, and they've learned that with Pokemon Go and now Fire Emblem. These are games that are making them a lot of money. Super Mario Run, not as much, but I think they learned something from that, and Animal Crossing comes out free to play. Does have a form of gacha system, though, with loot boxes, kind of with the fortune cookies, I guess. But Fire Emblem's had that for a while, too. So at least they're free to play, and they're kind of keeping it there. We haven't seen anything on Nintendo's main home console yet from their first-party offerings, but we'll see about that one. No, they're not going to get together and make a system. They're just doing crossplay, and honestly, it's because Nintendo doesn't mind, since they're not going to have they're not going to have Battlefield, right? They're not going to crossplay that, but Minecraft, that makes a lot of sense for them to do that, absolutely. And then anything else, third-party, basically anything they can to make indie developers and third-party companies more comfortable in their systems, Nintendo is absolutely going to do it, and Microsoft is all for the third-party companies, right? We've seen this for a while now. So it makes sense. Don't expect a system though. Starting the week on Monday, we went over the revenue generated from the Tegra chip in the Nintendo Switch. NVIDIA reported earnings that seem to be nearly $1 billion generated from the Switch alone. This is a massive amount of revenue in the short time the Switch has been on the market. Failed Artist says, Nintendo Switch will be the console that helps mobile gaming get closer to console quality sooner than we thought. I predict we'll see NVIDIA helping Nintendo develop a brand new Tegra that will actually be on par, if not more powerful than the current systems whilst keeping the portability. I could see a Nintendo Switch Plus revealed in 2019 alongside some games that weren't originally planned for the Switch, but now will have the increased hardware specs. So the Tegra's been looking for a home for a long time. I've told you guys that for a while, did a whole video on it. Yeah, they needed something for it to really, I guess, for them to make sense to put more money in, more research and development, spend more time on it, because their video cards make them money, so it makes sense that they dump a lot of R&D into it. When they did the Pascal lineup, and you see like the 1080s and stuff, they said they spent enough money to send a team to Mars and back. That's how much money they spent on their R&D. So they're willing to spend the money on a product that they can then continue on with. Like the Pascal lineup is going to continue on. They're making a lot of money from it, obviously, with all their cards, 1050, 1060, 1070, 1080, even the 1030. These are all cards that are making them a lot of money. They're also in laptops and notebooks and stuff. It makes a ton of sense. Now that the Tegra is actually making money, well, they're going to make it more powerful. They're probably already R&Ding some serious stuff. I don't know if they'll reach console level quality. I'd like to think that because the Switch is now looking for that next big jump, they would do things like increase memory bandwidth and clock speed and ability. So it's possible that they could get something that gets closer to like a PS4 level. It's very possible because they'd be searching for like 1080p native on screen, and then if they keep that 720p screen, which I think for a lot of people is good, but we would like to see it just native 720 all the time, I think that's completely possible. Seriously, in the next couple of years, they could probably do that, and I honestly would pay more money for a more powerful Switch. Absolutely. In fact, I think a lot of people would, and I think that's going to be the direction they kind of go in. They have a cheaper system, right? Like we see with the 3DS lineup, where there's a 2DS that's cheaper, and then you have the new 3DS XL and everything. That makes a lot of sense. Get a really nice Switch out that people like me would spend upwards $400 on, and then get one that's like $200, like a Switch Lite. Tuesday, we talked about Mario Tennis Aces topping the UK sales charts, and Capcom possibly exploring more cloud titles for the Switch. Grant Harlow says, not ever going to support cloud-based games on any platform. You know, it's very interesting to think about this because so many companies see the cloud as the future because they want to eliminate the console in general. Like they want to eliminate the extremely expensive console because if there's no system that you have to buy, your install base is much larger, right? If you hear about a game and you're like, oh man, I really want to go play that new Battlefield 5, but then you realize you don't have the system for it, which means you have to buy the system and then the game. What if you just had to buy the game and not the system? That is why so many publishers like even Ubisoft, right? They just talked about it. East Guillermo just talked about how, oh, I think this is going to be the next generation, the last generation before we go all cloud gaming, because third-party developers want that. They don't want to deal with any of these consoles if they can help it. One, maybe they can release it themselves and they don't have to deal with, well, they don't deal with all of the licensing fees and stuff, right? Where you have to pay Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. So I feel like we could get there eventually, but man, I understand why that's not a future a lot of people want, because then you're essentially renting your games. I get now you buy it digitally, you're technically renting it there as well, since they can take it away from you. If you don't believe me, go ask the people who liked Scott Pilgrim vs. the World if they want to go buy it now. So yes, I get what people are talking about. It's worrying for people who don't want to have to deal with online stuff, right? You just want to buy it, you want to pop it in, and you just want to play it. And honestly, when would the internet even be ready for that? I can't make up a prediction for that. I feel like we're way off of that just because of how poor it is in the US, anywhere else, all right? I mean, there are places like Japan, South Korea, they're probably ready for it. Honestly, they're at least very close if they're not right there. So we'll see, but I don't expect cloud gaming that soon to take over. I think it's going to be a couple decades, to be honest. Wednesday, we took a look at a new update for Bomberman R from Konami that added several new characters, including Snake and Raiden from Metal Gear. Capcom also talked about Monster Hunter World, saying it won't be going to Switch, but other new Monster Hunter games could be instead. Elias Anybody says that amount of love from Konami towards a single game does indeed feel very random. You are not wrong about that. When I saw this, I was like, wow, what is going on here? Because I almost look, like I said, I look at Super Bomberman R and I go, are we sure that's from Konami? I feel like that's a team internal to Konami that is just having a blast with it. It's selling well, so Konami's not canceling it or telling them to move on, and they've moved it to other platforms now, so the install base is larger, and they're trying to keep bringing more and more people in. So I get why they're doing it, but it does not feel like Konami, does it? I almost wonder what the catch is when I see this kind of stuff, but I guess for now, it's good. Maybe they're working towards a sequel at some point, and they're trying to keep the goodwill and keep just the fan base going. Remember, that game sold over 1 million copies on the Switch alone, which tells me going to places like the PS4 and the Xbox One and PC, there's going to build a bigger fan base, so maybe they're working towards a sequel, like Super Bomberman R2 or something, or who knows what else, like Super Bomberman S, I don't know. But it's weird. It's off, right? When you look at it, and you're like, that's Konami doing that, huh? And they're free updates, and it's Snake. And it's David Hayter. What is going on over there? Is Konami sick? Actually, you know what? It's funny we ask if Konami's sick when they're actually putting quality stuff out that is good for the consumer. It's funny that we're to that point with Konami, because there was a point in time with the NES, we would have been like the opposite, right? If they're not doing good stuff, and been like, what's wrong with Konami? But not anymore. Antonio Cunningham says, as a Monster Hunter player, I'll definitely welcome a new Monster Hunter from the ground up for the Switch. Monster Hunter World is good, but I still prefer Monster Hunter Double Cross. I'll be so happy to get away from the horrible Scouts flyer system, and I've never been fond of the Slinger system because it's too inconsistent. So that is what I was really I was kind of referring to was there are parts of Monster Hunter World that people just don't like, and there are parts that people really like. And what's great here is if Capcom treats this like two separate entries in the same, I guess, IP with Monster Hunter, that would be awesome because then you can kind of best of both worlds. Maybe you do like Monster Hunter World, and you don't like the traditional Monster Hunter as much. You can get Monster Hunter World 2 when that comes out, or when the next Monster Hunter comes out for the Switch, and it's, what would they even call it? I don't know. What are we, Double Cross? I don't know. Double Z, Triple Cross? I don't know. Anyway, when the next one comes out, they would instead turn it into more traditional Monster Hunter, and those fans can go there. Capcom will win either way because they're putting out double the Monster Hunter games and making extra money, so they're super happy. And I do think the Switch can support an entire series of Monster Hunter on its own with the install base, specifically in Japan, where that install base is going to pass the PS4 probably later this year. Especially with Pokemon, by the way, it's going to. And when you have Monster Hunter coming out, that's an event. So they could seriously do like a bi-yearly or maybe every 3 years you have a different one come out. So you have like next year you might have a new Monster Hunter game, for example, just thrown out there on the Switch. And then, 2 years later you have one on the PS4 and Xbox One and PC, and you kind of keep it going. Or maybe they stagger that PC release, so you almost have a new release every year for Monster Hunter. Capcom sees the money, and I'll be curious if they try to really pull the trigger on that. Thursday, Sony responded to a question centered around their stance on crossplay. Sony answered with a typical non-answer, saying they were looking into many ways to solve the issues. Reggie also talked about Waluigi and how they have heard the fans' requests for his addition to Smash. Chacho131 says, why Waluigi though? Why not literally any other character? I could think of 20 other characters I would want before even considering a 10th Mario character. I think at this point, Waluigi is, he's I guess, a funny character online. He's a meme, if you will. And people, I think, want him for that reason. I mean, he's been around since the N64 with Mario Tennis there. And I feel like people weren't even asking for him in Smash then. Were people asking for him in Melee or even the one on the Wii? I guess the Wii U is really when it started, and that's when really the internet was obviously getting a lot of people online with YouTube and Twitter and everything. I feel like now it's just getting passed around as the meme, right, as the joke. But a lot of people do want him. I don't know how many people would actually main him or use him, but hey, Reggie mains him in Mario Tennis, and honestly, playing as him in Mario Tennis, it is pretty fun. He's a defensive character, but he's very, very lively. He's a character you'll remember in Mario Tennis, I will say that. So I could see that. I don't know, does he need his own game first, or should he get one? I feel like people should be asking for his own game rather than his addition to Smash first. I mean, if you like the character, wouldn't you want to spend a whole game with him and see if you actually like the character, or if you like the meme of the character? I don't know. I do think he might get added to Smash just because they have heard the fan outcry for him, and they heard the fan outcry for Ridley, right? So, hey, you never know. A DLC could always happen down the road. Finally, on Friday, we went over trademarks Nintendo filed that seemed to center around the GameCube. Fans are now wondering if GameCube games could be showing up on the Switch, or if a GameCube Mini could be a possibility. Matthias Wolfbrook says, just as a reminder, Smash Bros. Is coming at the end of the year, so Nintendo has to renew all of the trademarks they have under the sun to put everything back into Smash. You just ruined it for everybody, didn't you? You just had to do that. Yeah, no, you're more likely right. That's probably why a lot of these trademarks are popping up. We kind of went over that in a whole nother slew of trademarks that happened. They had to do that probably for Smash, and honestly, I'm sure the GameCube is mentioned at some point because they have like the whole bios, where they do like all the biographies for all the different characters and stuff. I'm sure they mention the GameCube somewhere in there. They probably have a logo in there. They're of course doing all the controllers, the GameCube adapter. Yes, you're probably right. That's probably what this is all for. And a lot of us maybe were looking at like, oh, that'd be really cool if they brought GameCube games to the Switch, or they did a GameCube Classic or Mini. You're probably right. Yeah, this is more than likely for Smash Bros. They just had to get all their trademarks out of the way. They were like, oh, wait, we got to trademark the GameCube, make sure that's all good so we can release these controllers. But hey, we can always dream, right? I mean, a GameCube Classic, a GameCube Mini, that'd be pretty cool. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the Saturday show. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in today. Guys, let me know what you think about any of this stuff we went into today with the GameCube trademarks. It's probably for Smash, right? What about Waluigi? Would you rather him have a game first, or would you rather them just throw him into Smash? So like, you know what? he doesn't need his own game. We're just throwing him in. And how would they even do could they do a Waluigi game? You guys will have to let me know about that one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys in the next video.